If this ceramic jellyfish and anglerfish taught me one thing, it's that I really enjoy making little guys that live underwater, like this sand dollar or these starfish. But this tiny starfish gave me an idea. You see, I've made lots of tiny tic-tac-toe sets, but I've never done an underwater theme. Welcome to part 1 of making a tiny sea urchin tic-tac-toe set. So to start, I grabbed my little push mold that I recently made and made a cute little half star. I take clay, push it into the mold, and then cut off the excess, use a sponge to smooth it out, and then pipe on some details, and there you have it, a little star. Now for a tic-tac-toe set, you need 5 of each pieces to represent the X's and O's, so I just repeated that process. I actually found out that if you push the clay against the table in the mold, it works really well, but just continued pushing them in, cutting them out, piping them on. I also scratched little details on the bottom, and then it was time for the second set of pieces, which I'm going to do a little sea urchins, kind of like this guy, or that alive. Just took little balls of clay with a flat bottom and then piped on spines. Don't worry, I left room for little faces, but then I moved on to making the board, so I just rolled some clay out, cut it into a circle, and then marked out where I wanted the spaces, carved those out, used a sponge to smooth them out, and then here are our pieces, and here is how they look on the board currently. As you can see, very small, very cute. Before we can move on to underglaze, I'm going to let them dry overnight, so see y'all tomorrow. We finally have all 10 of our 5-fold symmetry friends. Welcome back to part 2 of making an echinoderm tic-tac-toe set. So to start, I grabbed my now very flat little tic-tac-toe board. I do this by laying it overnight on a plaster board with a piece of wood on it, or in between 2 sheets of paper with a piece of wood on it. This little bit of weight keeps them nice and flat overnight, so after that I just smoothed them out with a sponge, and here's what we're starting with. So for colors, I showed the real references last episode if you didn't see it, but I'm going to be going with a blue and white starfish and a red and white sea urchin. As always, all of our underglaze colors need 3 coats of each color, so I just started laying all of those on. Now, while you may be too early to see results, you're not too early to learn a fun fact. So as I stated in the beginning, both starfish and sea urchins are echinoderms, meaning that they have 5-folded symmetry. Obviously, it is much easier to see on a starfish, but sea urchins are the same as our sand dollars. And while 5-folded symmetry is pretty cool, you know what's cooler? Or weirder? I'm not sure. First of all, they're just kind of brains that can move, which is crazy, but they poop from the top. Their mouths are actually on the underside, whatever is like stuck to a rock or the seafloor, and they poop up. Now that I've successfully ruined your days, it's time to start working on the board, which I'm really excited to show y'all. Added some gray to the outside of the board and a few little spots on the inside because my goal is to kind of recreate a shallow water or rock pool. Mix together some light blue and teal with a bunch of water to try to get a kind of watercolor effect and put down 2 layers of that all over the board. I plan to do an additional 2 more layers after this piece comes out of the bisque fire. Oh, we're moving, so you know that means things are getting serious. So I grabbed this bucket and poured water in. In hindsight, it was too much water, but then I poured some glaze into this to once again kind of make a watercolor-esque thing, added soap to it because we're finally playing with bubbles. So I just put a straw in here and made a bunch of bubbles. The first go round, it was definitely way too thin, so I realized that I needed smaller bubbles and denser bubbles, so I would mix it up with a straw and then dip the board in to kind of stick bubbles to it. These bubbles have just a bit of glaze on them. Fortunately, I didn't get a close-up after the bubble had popped, but here are the little guys after they were glazed. Here's a reminder of where we started, and here's where we ended for the day. These little guys will spend the next 16-ish hours in the kiln, and then I will start glazing, so see y'all tomorrow. Much like you, sadly, these little guys don't have a brain. Welcome back to part 3 of making an echinoderm tic-tac-toe set. Yesterday we put our board and pieces in the kiln for their bisque fire, and today we got them out. The pieces are looking wonderful, but much like the tectonic plates, this board was shifting. Now, it does have a few cracks. They're quite small, and why did that happen? Well, because I used the driest clay on earth to make said board. So, consequences of my actions. So I started the day by repairing that and moving on to adding white glaze to all of the sea urchins' spines. And I'm not gonna lie, y'all, this took forever, but I think it'll be super cute. So after I got all of those spines done, I added an extra layer of blue to the board and then got the bubbles back out because I realized I didn't put bubbles on the back. So did that, Came out super cute. And then I also added some bubbles to all of the starfish. Now this may be a little confusing, but when you see the reference picture, I guarantee you'll agree with this decision. I mean, look at that. Perfect match, right? So then I got out my Pepto-Bismol. Of course, it's just my clear glaze, and dipped all of my little guys in. Don't worry, the spinning doesn't hurt them because remember, they don't have a brain, but they also don't have blood. So all of these little guys have a water vascular system, and they use hydraulic pressure to move. After I had all of them looking nice and pink, I moved on to getting all 3 coats of clear glaze on board as well. Now the only thing left to do is one more glaze fire, so let's look at where we started. Here it was on the first day, the second day morning, the end of the second day, this morning at the beginning of the day, and then here it was before going into the glaze fire. Got that all loaded up, and they will be in the kiln for the next 16-ish hours, so bye! While yesterday's intro may have felt like an attack, I bet you remember. Do echinoderms have brains? No, they don't. And that's because you have a brain. Welcome back to part 4 of making an echinoderm tic-tac-toe set. So I started by opening the kiln once it was finally cool and taking them outside to give them a little bit of a bath. Are you ready to see the finished set? Let's count down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and here it is. I am so excited about how it came out. I think it looks so stinking cute. All of the colors look wonderful, and let's play a game. So pick, who are you going for, the sea urchins or the sea stars? And while this game is happening, I'll tell you one more fun fact. So all of these little guys eat externally, meaning that they shove their stomachs out of their mouths, and their stomachs digest food outside of their bodies and then bring it back into the body. And it was a tie, but thank you so much for watching this little series. Let me know in the comments who you want to see or learn about next, and yeah.